Hello, and thank you for joining us for this evening's Metabolic Code clinical case review using the Metabolic Code report. I'm Libby Bricker, and I'm your moderator this evening. We have Jim Laval with us, who will be walking you through the case review tonight. And without any further delay, I will hand the screen over to him to begin the review.
Hey everybody, we're going to try and get through two cases in 30 minutes. We're going to step the tempo up a little bit and see if you guys will follow. First case we're going to do is a young lady that just came to us, and we saw her for one visit, just got the labs back, so I'm seeing this for the first time like you are. I put her on an initial program, so and I'll go through that, but let's see what came up. So let's take a look at, first of all, her questionnaire. And you can see, she's 5'2", she weighs 125 pounds, female, her blood pressure is 140/64, she's got a heart rate of 76. We don't have a pH on her. Her date of birth is 12/1/90. It's kind of an overachiever. She's an engineer. She was working 2 jobs. Getting ready to get married and literally called it off within like a few days of the marriage. So she had been under a lot of stress over the last year. She had, came in with a diagnosis of Hashimoto's autoimmune thyroiditis, but she was on Nature-Throid, and she had PCOS along with her Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Not particularly. When they put up the dose on her Nature-Throid, actually, her weight popped up an extra 10 pounds. So she sought us out to see if we could help her figure it out. So as you look here, she craves foods. She definitely craves starchy foods. Without a doubt, she's under, like I said, a lot of stress, high achiever, engineer, going through school, and at the same time going through a relationship where she pulled out of the marriage the last few days, and this was like maybe 8 months ago. As we look through the rest, any drug history that she's on, she was on oral contraceptives, so multiple depletions could take place, and she was on Nature-Throid, so she's on 2 meds right now. If we look at her blood sugar, obviously with PCOS, blood sugar is a big deal, and she pins many of the questions related to blood sugar. So before you even see a blood sugar on her, you can see she's irritable if the meals missed, she gets anxious or nervous, she craves carbs, she's more than 20 pounds over her ideal body weight. I wouldn't agree with that. I'd say she's probably 10 pounds. She gets a headache if she goes too long without eating, and it's relieved by sweets. Gets tired after big meals. She gets periodic crashes during the day for energy. And then, of course, craves salt. So, the adrenals are starting to go on her a little bit here. Too much stress in her life. Eats a lot at dinner. Hardly eats from morning. She's not that hungry in the morning. She barely eats at lunch, thinking it's going to help her maintain her weight. And then she gorges herself at dinner. So as you can see, she's starting to develop a really good pattern. If you look here in terms of her questions for low thyroid, she's answering yes to most of them. But even though she's medicated, she's fatigued and she's gaining weight and she doesn't feel good. Her gut, if you look here, a couple things come up. She was on antibiotics for quite a while. In addition to that, she had food intolerances, so we know she has a leaky gut. And now we know that leaky gut is probably when you think of it, as we talked about Triad 1 evolving to its furthest point, which is autoimmune thyroiditis, lots of cortisol. She has PCOS, so the blood sugars are off, the cortisol's going high, her gut's getting leaky. Between the antibiotics and the stress, her gut gets leaky, and now she's attacking her thyroid. So you can see the pattern picking up. And, this is someone that, 25 years old, right? Let's see what else she says. Stomach acid. Did she have stomach pain before eating? Yes. That's the only one that she answered yes to. And then here, she doesn't get enough sleep, typically between 5 and 7 hours a night. So we know that's driving her cortisol and also driving her blood glucose problems in addition to that, right? As well as her thyroid, for that matter, because her thyroid binding globulin will go up. So that little part is incredibly important. And then, exercise regularly, but no other things going on with her cardiovascular system. Nothing going on other than she was told that she had shingles one time. The rest of this is fairly uneventful. Sex drive is down. She's, her adrenals are pushing hard. Her thyroid is low. So that makes sense. And she's on oral contraceptives. So this is our picture of our 25-year-old. Let's see what the report shows. So as we would expect, I mean, the top thing that shows up is adrenal thyroid pancreas, but knowing she has autoimmune thyroiditis, you have to start working on her gut. She's going to need to have a food allergy panel done. You're going to have to work on quieting that immune function down. But if you look at her questions, they're pretty balanced between her pancreas, her adrenals, and her thyroid because she's been under tremendous stress for several years. She has autoimmune thyroiditis. And her, once again, her pancreas their symptoms are very high, and so are her labs. So, but by far, when you add these two up, once again, the top two triads cause the biggest problems. And let's face it, here's what goes on, guys, is once you clean up these two, that's when some of these other ones will surface, whether it's her hormones or whether it's detoxification. But a lot of times we look at these lower ones and think, oh, they don't have a problem there. What it's really showing is that you've got these big areas to clean up, and then these other areas may surface based on what other labs you do as you're starting to discover what's going on with the person's chemistry. If we look at her metabolic code vitality index, it makes sense with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, food allergies, excessive stress, not sleeping enough. She's got a lot of high risk for being, fairly distant from her optimal wellness potential. And that's really what this is showing is that, the way her chemistry is right now, and I don't think any of us would disagree, if she has known food allergies, if she's already has her immune system attacking her thyroid, if she has issues with her cortisol and her blood sugar, her future vitality is pretty much at risk. I mean, I think we would all agree that there's, right now, if we had to lay bets, that she's not going to be doing real well in a lot of these areas. So let's look at her labs. Her serum cortisol was actually decent at this point, but she also has taken a lot of time to, even though she's not getting enough sleep, she said she's really dialed down her stress load. Her sodium's at 136 though, so the adrenals have been getting pushed pretty hard to the tail end of the sodium level. If you look at her free T3, she was medicated. It was, it's 6.9. Her total T3 was high. Her free T4 is trending low, and her total T4 is trending high. So this is somebody that, even though she is hypothyroid in her symptoms, she has, in general, too much thyroid hormone. And it's most likely because the receptors aren't functioning. She's being overtaxed with her medication. She's given a gland extract, which very well could be, causing more immune stress. And so that shows, significant problem. Her potassium was at 3.9, so she's spilling potassium. Her glucose fasting was 79, which was actually pretty good. So, we'll take that. Her vitamin D was incredibly low. Now, of course, you want to fix that with any autoimmune situation. And then we look at her homocysteine. It is high, trending very, very high, real close to out of bounds. That's, so once again, B12, B6 folate, and maybe even intoxication issues. Calcium was okay. Her blood pressure was fine, but her heart rate is too high and probably due to the excessive thyroid hormone she's taking. If you look at her blood pressure, to me, she's just a shade low. So, when you look at, she's right at that borderline with her cortisol because it's, with a high end of 25, 12 is at the very low end of what you accept as being okay. She's starting to crash. Nothing eventful here. Our ALP or alkaline phosphatase is, kind of trending low, but, no big deal there. And then we look here, her proteins are trending a little bit high, but, no big deal there. Let's look at her symptoms. All of her symptoms mainly go really in triad 1. So symptoms plus many of her labs. And then let's go past here and look at, well, what would you do? Well, the big thing you would do to get this person started, obviously she needs vitamin D. Let's kind of get down to here and see what we've got. Here's your potential nutrient depletion. So she needs to be on a really solid multivitamin, extra magnesium, some CoQ10, because she probably needs the extra mag because of her PCOS and her insulin receptors being a little resistant. Probably want to check her iron status just to find out where she's at because of the thyroid. But really what you're doing here, once again, let's look at triad 1 and 2. Triad 2 is get rid of the Candida, so Candibactin. So if you want to use cat's claw and berberine, if you want to use olive leaf extract, there's olive leaf and grapefruit seed extract. There's 50 different products out there that you could substitute for Candibactin that work. But the bottom line is you want to clean off the unfriendly flora, and then we want to add vitamin D3. Let's look at the blue ones. D3 helps with gut integrity and helps with immune regulation. And then we need magnesium, and because she's not sleeping enough, consider melatonin. But most importantly, what this picked up was because of her thyroid, she needed Moducare, and that picked that up right away. And so that is that's a biggie. And then in terms of triad 1, licorice to try to build up her adrenals a little bit more because of mainly her symptom score, but she was just at the low end of normal one of her adrenals. The magnesium helps out with the blood sugar. The Mitoregen PGC1 is a kind of a carnitine product to get her thyroid firing and to get the thyroid receptors working. So it's kind of get the thyroid receptors to open up again, because the thyroid receptors certainly are in some sort of tachyphylaxis with what she's doing. Her numbers are too high, and yet she's still feeling all the symptoms of low thyroid. And really, if you do that, that's a great start with her. Get her gut right, get her vitamin D right, give her, she's not complaining of being stressed out anymore. Get her on some adrenal support. Get her on blood sugar support, and that's this puts in all of them, obviously all 5 triads. So the Sericin to help with cravings, the thyrostasis, really just to drive T4, but I would probably hold off on that. Probably just a clinical probe, just be wait and see when she's going to have to go off of her nature throid. You're probably going to have to step her down with some Synthroid and some Cytomel or T3, and then the Wellness Essentials is obviously a multivitamin. It has lots of chromium in it for her blood sugar. So it's blood sugar, gut, help the adrenals, get the immune system under control. That's the Moducare. And then all these other things are things that happen in the future. So that's case 1. Maybe, and what we can do is I want to go to case 2. So while you're going to manage this for 60 days, you're going to work on her. You're going to get her on a food elimination diet, have her do the metabolic code diet. If you look here under nutrient supplement schedule, you may want to implement a food allergy panel right away because of her known autoimmune thyroiditis. Obviously, in the future, after you get her minerals repleted, you may think about testing for heavy metals. It seems as though antibiotics for acne, lots of stress in her business or in her school, the thyroid antibodies kicking up while she was still in school, in fact, that this is probably where it's all coming from. And then just, recheck thyroid hormones in 90 days. You could do 60 if you want. Recheck vitamin D, recheck her white blood cell count, and then, make sure she's doing the elimination diet. And that's it to start. pretty complex case, but really boiled it down to where you really need to go is adrenal, thyroid, pancreas, and then the gut. And then you're going to get that person to move really well. So let's go to the next one. Let's go back one more and get there we go. Now, this particular person I haven't even seen yet. I haven't looked at any of this, so I'm going to go through it with you with brand new eyes to see what we're going to do with her. I know she's the spouse of someone that we did a workup on, supposed to be relatively healthy, but let's see what we come up with. Questionnaire. Born in 63, so basically, 52-ish. 5'4", 140 pounds. Don't have a blood pressure on her. Her heart rate's at 70. So let's take a look at her questionnaire. She knows she has food allergies. Right away, that gives us an idea of what's going on with her, right? She has known food allergies. She has leaky gut. Is she on any medications? As we look through her drug-induced nutrient depletion chart, she's not on any of the major medications, doesn't answer to any of them. Does she have any blood sugar issues? Well, lo and behold, typically when you find people with yeast problems, you're going to find people, she has food allergies, she's got yeast, she has food allergies, she'll have blood glucose disposal problems. So she's hypoglycemic. Answered a lot of questions related to dysglycemia. She also craves salt and also notices her short-term memory isn't what it used to be. So she's leaky gut, that enteric nervous system's firing up, she's got a neuroinflammatory pathway, she's craving salt, so she's pushed her adrenals hard. Let's see what else shows up. She's overcommitted through her day. She's answering yes for several thyroid questions. Nails are brittle, hair is brittle, nails are brittle. Difficulty with losing weight regardless of exercise. And so once again, let's look at gut. She gets fungus on her skin or nails. She has, already we know she has food intolerances. She has mental fogginess, like pushing a thought through jello. So this is telling you that she has constipation, she gets bloated. She's got a lot of questions that relate to the gut. All right, so the gut's going to be important for her. Let's see what else. Do you feel full for an extended period of time after eating? Yes. So she doesn't have enough digestive enzymes as well, or she's not chewing her food. Then let's get down to the brain. She doesn't get enough sleep. She has difficulty falling asleep. She replays the events over in her mind. She's a restless sleeper to boot, and she sleeps between 5 and 7 hours a night. So now she's a gut brain person, right? So you can tell she's nervous, overcommitted, anxious, and this is translating now to a behavior. Let's see what else is going on here. Neurovascular, anything? No. Pulmonary? No. Her liver, she's intolerant to greasy foods. Okay, so the gallbladder's off a little bit. So we should just be aware of that. She has a little bit of urinary incontinence. So this could be an issue with some hormones, right? Sex drive is down, painful on intercourse due to vaginal dryness, so we know she's in an estrogen deficit, and maybe even a little bit of testosterone deficit with the other as well. And then she also has symptoms of hot flashes and mood swings. Let's keep going, and that's basically it, right? So this is her. Do you think we have some easy ways that we can start with this woman? I think we understand she's not sleeping. She's feeling overstressed. She can lose weight. She's got a lot of food intolerances, it sounds like, a lot of digestive distress. So we know we've been dealing with enough people with Candida that you know that when you start to clean up the Candida, straighten out her diet, she'll start dropping weight. And you got to remember, Candida mycotoxins end up causing the thyroid to go slow. So let's take a look at her report. Let's see what her report says when she does her labs. I mean, I already know what to do with this woman before I even look at this report. I mean, you can tell by the questionnaires what you need to do. It clearly laid it out quickly for you where her problems were. Now let's look at the report. Well, let's see what scored highest. Once again, in this case, if you look at this, her lab values were very high on adrenal, thyroid, pancreas, but her symptom score was very high on gut, immune, brain. So what did that end up doing? It ended up creating basically a stalemate, 540 and 460. So you add the two together, you're at 1,000. When you look at the other scores combined, 330, 460, you know, it's half. So in this kind of case, what you may choose to do is pick out, well, what other important symptoms are there to me that I would want to help this woman with? And this might be a case where you think about bioidentical hormones to help with her vaginal dryness, to help with her sex drive, to help with her bladder. All these things could be of benefit. So this may be a situation where you drop down into triad 3 to try to get her some relief because of her menopause, giving her some real quality of life symptoms. So that's a thought, opening thought. Let's take a look at where her risks are at. Because one thing I want to show you is that despite the fact we read through this, who had more of the risk? The 25-year-old versus the 52-year-old, because the 25-year-old had this convergence of immune inflammation, autoimmunity, adrenals are pushed, blood sugars are already going with all of her symptoms and her PCOS, and her thyroid is off, right? So you got a lot of convergence of things in that 25-year-old. Here, it's not great, right? She's still at a high risk overall for a vitality index, but at least some of her stuff is in the yellow and the green. So let's take a look and see what we got. Well, her cortisol's at 12, but her DHEA is low, so her DHEA is trending low, and her cortisol is right at the tail end of being normal. Her sodium, though, is low, like we discussed on the other woman. So we know that her adrenal reserve is starting to get taxed. We look at her thyroid hormones. Her T4 is beautiful, right? Free T4 140, but her free T3 is 28. So she definitely is under chronic stress, right? Look at her T3 total. Her T3 total is low. So her free is low, and she's not making any. So she's a clear case that, she's saying she's under stress. She's not getting enough sleep. Clearly we would be working on her stress axis and getting her to sleep to correct for her thyroid. And then let's look and see if there's anything else that shows up. Potassium is low. Her red blood cell magnesium is trending low, so she doesn't have enough magnesium to really run mitochondrial efficiency. And her potassium is trending low. Most likely this is someone who's insulin resistant. If we fed her something and took her blood an hour after she ate, her glucose would probably be higher. And let's look at her monocytes. Yeah, her monocytes are fine. They're a little off, but really not much. And anything else here that's of interest? Nothing else, mainly symptoms. Look at that LDL particle number on her. That's just incredible, 763. You rarely see that unless somebody's on statins, and she wasn't. Her carbon dioxide is good. Her heart rate at 70, considering it wasn't a morning one, is good. I know her husband's a distance runner, kind of triathlete, so she probably does something similar maybe. I'm not sure yet. I haven't talked to her. Her hemoglobin is good. Her mean corpuscular volume is way high, as is her MCH. So she more than likely is in need of some folate, B6, and B12. And then let's keep looking at the kidneys. Kidney readings, beautiful, right? Her creatinine 0.91. Her GFR, though, at 65, that's trending low. So her kidneys are taking a little bit of punishment here, right? Creatinine trending a little high, GFR trending a little low. Her uric acid's okay. Her proteins are fine. But this is something where it's a 65 GFR, I'd be starting her on something for her kidneys, even though her first two triads are the primary ones you have to deal with. Like make sure she's hydrating. Does she have enough glutathione? Are you supporting her glomeruli? Are you supporting her detox capacity? Because right now it's compromised. And estrone is off. Testosterone is there. I thought her progesterone was low when I reviewed her study. I know it was. It was 0.2. It didn't get in here for tonight's. But if you look at her overall scores, her scores are all, these are her symptom scores. Her scores are significant, right? She's feeling a lot of this. So her gut, her short-term memory's off. She's not feeling well. Her energy's not right. Her thyroid's off, right? And you look at this, and really, her symptoms don't really rank up too differently from her symptoms plus her labs. So let's go with what we would do with her. I mean, it's arguable without knowing, this particular lady for sure without interviewing her. I'm not quite sure what I would do with her, but let's see what this does. So the first thing it does is it suggests Adracet, which is an adrenal adaptogen. That makes a lot of sense. She's under a lot of stress, feeling overcommitted. And then the chasteberry and estrometab are two things for improving estrogen and improving progesterone. Now, you could choose to do bioidentical hormones. She may object. I don't want to do bioidentical hormones. I want to do something natural. Okay, chasteberry and estrometab comes up. Obviously, magnesium is a must for her with her trending low mag and her glucose issues and her stress issues and not sleeping issues. The melatonin comes up. The Renopac came up for the kidneys, but once again, this would be if you decided you wanted to go there, but you could. But it tells you which product would be appropriate based on the fact her GFR is off and her creatinine was was trending as well. Thyroid support, blood sugar balance, gut health. This actually, as aggressive as this program is, this is a really solid program for her. I mean, it hits everywhere where she's got both quality of life issues, and so it really just becomes a how much are you willing to work with her on, or how much is she willing to work on, in the first round, because you really can't go wrong with any of the triads in terms of how you're going to help her. But it's obvious you're going to need to get her to sleep, and you're going to have to get her stress reduction down, and then we're going to have to work on balancing her blood sugar out. And then we're going to, and then we work on her gut and her food allergies, because her gut really came up strong on the symptoms. And that really, so what else will you do? Put her on a metabolic code diet, which is Elimination Diet. Get her on, GI Spectro, Candida. You want to use something else, you can. You can. Obviously, you're going to check for food allergies or intolerances in her at some point, or you may just do an elimination diet and have her re-challenge. It may be wise to think about things like toxic metals or persistent organic pollutants at some point, to check for those, and maybe 60 days after her magnesium pulls better, and then look at any of the other improvements that you can, as I've got listed here. But honestly, maybe give her something if she's feeling overcommitted during the day in addition to her melatonin at night. She should think about taking something like Still Point or Relora or Holy Basil during the daytime hours to calm her brain down and take the melatonin at night. Because she's feeling overcommitted and foggy-headed and stressed out, it might be a good idea to do that in addition to it. So, so honestly, this did a really good job of pulling up the big issues that this lady's having. And you can't go wrong with any of the selections in her case, because they hit on the big things that she reported she's having discomfort with. Yeah, her thyroid's off a little, but you know what? If you straighten out her diet and you get working on her gut, and you get her cortisol to straighten out, her conversion of T4 to T3, I probably would worry about that thyrostasis off the start. I would just start with the adaptogens, start with cleaning up the gut, start with helping the blood sugar. And so that's case number 2. We ended up getting 2 cases in 30 minutes. That's my goal now. I'm going to try and move faster for all of you now and start to evaluate 2 cases. And I'm going to try to put up cases that I haven't seen yet. So that way, it's a surprise to me, and we can really figure it out as to what's going on with the case. So that's it.
Great. Thanks so much, Jim. Let's give a little bit of time for questions to come up through, even though we did run right up to the half-hour mark. Want to give it just a little bit of time to see if we can sneak a couple questions in. Well, it doesn't look like we are having any questions trickle in. I'll just give a little bit more time and let everyone know that our next webinar will be on December 7th. It's part 2 of our micronutrients presentation with registered and licensed dietitian Laura Lavelle. So I hope you can join us for that. December 7th. You can sign up on the events page on metaboliccode.com. I think we can go ahead and wrap up. I'm not seeing any questions, so appreciate everyone's time, Jim, and everyone who was able to join us this evening for tonight's case. Hope you all have a great evening.